Okay, all right, guys, 7 o'clock. Welcome to the Barrabasics info session. What we're going to do is talk a bit about the course. We're going to go into the course and just show you how it's structured and some of the things we touch on. Also invited along a few of our students that have been with us for a while, and they can maybe help with some questions that people might have later with some of the things that sort of run into when they were doing the course as well. They can give a bit of advice on. To start off with, we're just going to run through a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation, and then we're going to go into the course and have a closer look. So we will move on and have a look in through the PowerPoint first. So Barrabasics is basically 8 modules. It's an online fishing course we've developed back in 2014. It's been going for a number of years now. It's been very successful. And we'll just move on to the next page. Can we quick move across there, buddy? Oh, okay. Right, a bit of background on who we are. Like I said, we've been running online fishing courses since 2014. I was a charter operator for over 30 years in all sorts of different fishing fields, specialising quite primarily in barramundi, but lots of other offshore stuff as well. We currently have over 10,000 students, and we've got a few, like I say, we've got a few here tonight that have a chat to us that might be able to help with some of the questions that anyone might ask. And yeah, once again, thousands of fish have been caught by our students with skill instead of using the old luck principles. Righto. Now, each species specific course has concept videos in it, which we run through. And we replicate that in the field with in-field videos. We have a framework to follow, your 3 T's, the timing, territory, and techniques. The demo videos will cover all the variables that are demonstrated and what to look for out in the field. We have workbooks as well that helps you look outside the square. And some people use them, some people don't, but it's quite handy, especially for the beginners, to use those. And of course, we have the Facebook group. The private Facebook group. This is where you get to ask questions. It's a fantastic community. There's a month of Sundays of reading in there. It's searchable. If you've got a topic, say lure casting or whatever it be, or a region, you want to type in Buralula, everything with that name in it will come up. So you can actually go and search your topics throughout the Facebook group. So that's one of the benefits there. And also the best thing about the course itself also is that you can revisit it as much as you like. Go over it and over. There's a lot of information in there, and of course you expect it just to be able to take it all in just in a weekend workshop or something like that. But yeah, so that's the best thing about it. You can always go back and revisit all sorts of different areas of the course. Now, is it on DVD? No. These are some of the frequently asked questions we get. This is all online. You get sent a username and password, and you have to log in with that every time. It takes you to our secure site. If you don't have a boat, will it help? Yes, we do have a land-based module in there, and quite a few of the principles in some of the modules still apply to land-based areas where you can actually get to and use them in a land-based situation. So you don't necessarily have to have a boat. It'll definitely help you with land-based as well. What about the Northern Territory? The East Coast techniques work. Basically, they do. Just basically, you might have smaller windows at certain things that we do on the East Coast due to the bigger tidal runs. That's the only thing. In the Northern Territory, mostly the Module 3, the shallow flats and headlands, is one of the most common kind of modules that will work the best up there, as well as the in-depth advanced videos on backwaters, waterlines, and current collisions. So some things will work in some areas more so than other modules, and vice versa on the East Coast as well. So yes, there's a bit in there for everybody, and also teaches you what to do when you do go to other parts of the country where your tides may be different as well. Okay, so we've pretty much touched the tidal run. We've touched on, you might already know how to catch barra in the snags. How is this different? I show you a whole heap of stuff that I've developed over 30 plus years on the water. catching big barramundi out in the middle of nowhere off the surface in deep water. It's actually possible. You can do that with shallow divers. Many people don't think you can, but we've certainly proved that wrong. And a lot of our students are catching some good fish in those ways now. So there's a lot of outside the box stuff in there. Some of it's for the beginners, and there's also a lot in there for the advanced people as well. We find a lot of people who've already had plenty of experience coming through still pick up a variety of different techniques and things to go and look at. Now, what is the membership site like and how many videos? Well, we'll have a bit of a look through that shortly. We'll click on to there now. Just bear with me for a sec. This is the first time we're using Facebook. Oh, sorry, this is the specials first. These are the specials we've got coming up from the 1st to 5th of February, starting tomorrow. Barrabasics, $12.99, threadies down to $5.99, wonky poles, $5.99, finger marks, $3.99, and sound skills 2, which is an awesome course. It's helping a lot of anglers not only understand their depth sounders, but teaches them a lot about fishing using sounders as well. Okay, that's the wrong one. We'll move on now. Just bear with us for a sec. It's a little different to the old system we used to use. Okay, we're going to move over to the Fish Smarter website and have a look in there and show you what happens. This is the Fish Smarter front page. Okay, when you log in, you'll come into this page here. This is your dashboard. These are all our courses, and the ones that you're in will be highlighted, and you can just simply click on it. So we'll click on Barrabasics there now, and we'll come through to Barrabasics. Just going to move that sidebar. There we go. Righto. So this is what will pop up, and then you just basically go through the modules one by one. Let's have a look at what's in the modules. Module 1 first up is fishing with strategy. We touch on things like the framework, things like the barometer. Well, the framework basically directs you where to be when, and that's modules 3, 4, and 5 are the most common things that go around the frame, based around the framework, but we'll talk about that shortly. But yeah, we also talk about the barometer and how it affects the fish and what drives them, what slows them down. Tidal run classification. Of course, we have different tidal runs all around the countryside, and we use different techniques in different areas for different tidal runs. So we break a lot of that down there. And then we move on to module 2, which is preparation. A lot of these first two is good for the beginners. It gets them up to speed. So there's a bit in this for everybody. So we do have to start off and look after the beginners as well. So we have a bit of live bait preparation. These are all concept videos backed up with in-field videos, of course. We have lure and tackle prep. We even show people where to, I mean, a lot of people can catch bait towards low tide, but they struggle catching good bait at high tide. And that's another very popular part of the course that we run through. All-tide herring, lure and bait rigging. We show you how to attach lures and baits in many different ways for different styles of fishing. The 4 knots, of course, and also my favourite casting technique with a cast net. Then we move on to the area modules, 3, 4, and 5. And number 3 is all about shallow flats and headlands. 3, 4, and 5 all relate to what we call the framework. And this, when you get into the course, you can see the framework and you'll see where you need to be when, with what tools. And that's the real goal. That's a good base for everybody to get used to. So module 3 is shallow flats and headlands. That shows you what to do predominantly on larger periods of the tides. And we get out there and look at all sorts of things like rocky outcrops, foreshores and detachments, mangrove forests, how they drain, how they work, all that kind of thing. And yeah, basically where to be when. Module 4 is creek rock bars. We teach you all about rock bars, concept video there, of course, and the infield demo video. We'll show you the little tricks and bits and pieces I've learned, not only to target stationary fish on rock bars, but the traveling fish as well. And that's one where people catch a lot of big barra. All right, module 5 is deep holes, ledges and snags. This is some of the sort of things we predominantly do when the water slows down. And it's probably a bit better for the East Coast and areas like the Northern Territory. You just have a smaller window in those kind of things up in those regions. So it does still happen, but just not as much. You just don't get as many days at it. Okay, in there also we have our updated sound skills video in there. We replaced it because technology has changed now, so we just replaced that sound video in there last year. It's got a lot of the newer stuff in there, and so we touch a lot on that. Certainly it's not as in-depth as our other course, Sound Skills 2. That's the one you really want to do if you want to understand sounders and use them to their best abilities to help you out fishing. So Sound Skills 2 is the best course for that. We also run through jigging techniques, trolling techniques, all sorts of things in there as well. So that's another interesting module. And module 6, all about seal the deal. It's concept video. We do a tour of the boat, how I've set my boat up for various styles of fishing over the years. So you get some great tips out of that. Fish handling, and of course, just a filleting, bonus filleting, barramundi filleting video we've thrown in there as well. Then we have module 7, which is our impoundment barra. Once again, a concept video. Then we touch on deep structure, shallow structure, and we have an interview in there with Lindsay Doe. Lindsay's a good friend of mine, and he is one of the best impoundment fishermen around, and he gives us some great little tips in there as well for impoundments. So then we move on to the advanced section. We touch a bit on fast trolling, some of the techniques I've used in fast trolling over the years at a certain stage of the tide when the fish rise a bit. So we talk all about that in there. Then we have the advanced backwater demonstration. We talk about that. There's a few examples of different backwaters at different tides, places to look for them and all that sort of thing. Dirty water lines and current collisions, that is, and also dirty water lines, wind and tide, created by wind and tide. And those three there quite often is what you're going to use a lot in the Northern Territory and regions around central Queensland, and that way we do get a lot of larger tidal movement. Now, after that we have the last module, module 8, which is our land-based module. So you don't need a boat for everything. And in there we show you some tips and tricks for various areas like rock walls and shoreline features, coastal drop-offs, all those sort of things. So yeah, that's a great little one for the guys who don't have a boat that can only fish off the shore. We also touch on Billabongs and Lagoons, even though it's probably not going to be a widely one used by a lot of people. We still touch on it as well in there. Also, there's some more bonuses there, jigging on aggregations, and we talk about the big tides in places like central Queensland and how to read the different rivers. Some rivers are going to run harder than others due to topography, and we show you how to look at Google Earth and have a look at your rivers and understand, are they going to be a hard running river in those areas, or are they going to open up and be a lot lighter run after a certain period of the tide? So that's all discussed in there anyway, guys. You'll pick up a lot in there. And then we have the webinars. There's a whole bunch of webinar recordings now since we've been going. You can go listen to all of them where people ask questions and that kind of thing. And yeah, it's very informative. And of course, once again, I do mention the private Facebook group you get to join. There's already hundreds, thousands of questions in there, trip reports. We break down all sorts of things a little bit more in there as well. So yeah, plenty of searching in there, and it is searchable. Has a great search function. Righto, now we have some of our students here with us tonight, and they're going to be here to maybe help me out with a few questions. There's just a few things when you do the course. Try not to slip back into your old habits. It might not work for you straight up, or the second trip, or the third trip, but after a while you'll see it start to really take off for you. Some people hit the ground running and others take a bit longer, but that can depend on your region, whether you're in an area that's hard hit by gill netting and things like that. Some people, some groups have a really good crack at it right from the very start. So, okay, now we will move on and we'll start with some of you guys that have logged in, and we'll go to the questions. So who we got first there, mate?
Going to have a chat to the students and ask them what they got out of it.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, guys. We'll have a bit of a chat with the students first. And we'll start off with Maxie. How are you, Maxie? Can you hear us, mate?
Yeah, good, Ryan. Yourself?
Good, buddy. How's the fishing down? Well, I suppose it's just starting to open up tomorrow, the Barra season, but how's the fresh water and everything happening down your way?
It's actually pretty steady at the moment. We haven't had a lot of rain in the sort of rocky area. The river the Fitzroy River did have a bit of a run there due to some rain out west, but they've now closed the gates again.
Okay.
That will have a little bit of an influence on the river now, probably timely. The rest of it, we haven't really had that much rain yet. We're still hoping to get some. Obviously, no one's been fishing, due to the closure, but things are probably starting to shape up. Unfortunately, I think everyone on the East Coast is going to get a big southeaster this week, so that'll be just spot on timing for the start of the season.
And you had a pretty good year down there last year?
Yeah, we did, mate. Yeah, and look, it was like you just touched on it earlier, due to the techniques and the things that you have taught through the course, just outside the box and not just the traditional ways of fishing for the fish for the barra. Certainly opens your eyes up, and if you're willing to open your mind and have a go, it is amazing what you will find. Big fish, small fish, there's all types there, but and what you've driven past for many a year in your travels in your local area, it's quite phenomenal.
Yeah, we get that from a lot of people, saying they've driven over things that, they should have paid more attention to if they'd known about it, basically. And that's what the course does. It basically irons things out and shows people what they should be looking for, and so they can keep an eye for all these scenarios, whether it's something to do with the framework or outside the framework. So that's good, mate. All righty, we'll have a chat to Chris. How are you, Chris?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, buddy. Good. How did you find the course when you first started? You spin your wheels there for a little while because you were going back to old habits?
Yeah, that was one of my things. There was so much information in there on so many different techniques, and then I was pretty excited to have a crack at all of it. So I was what we call spinning wheels. I was having a crack at everything, but not really giving much of it a chance to work properly. So then I basically went back to what my favourite fishing was at the time, and that was live bait fishing. And then it just picked up once I persisted, getting out of some old habits, and then getting into the course material. After a while, it all fell into place, and then since then I've sort of gone away from the live bait fishing, and then concentrate on the lure fishing and putting a lot of those practices into place that I learned from the live bait fishing, and just sitting and watching the water and watching bait fish and so forth. So it's really working well for me.
Even for the guys that aren't into live baiting, they're only into luring, then instead of skipping everything to do with live baiting, they can actually learn a lot. That's how I learned a lot about big fish out in the open waters, was through live baiting, because I knew when they were there simply because we were catching them. So then I could adjust my live baiting techniques into the lure techniques into the same spots, and that's how it worked for me, and that's what sort of transferred through the course, isn't it? Like, you learn a fair bit from your live bait practices that you're now using for luring.
100%, mate. Yeah, and just learning to read the water a little bit more rather than relying totally on your sounder. You've sort of learned to work out where those fish were pinning those live baits at certain places where you had them set, was where their movements were. So that's where you could transpose that into your lure fishing where that part of the tide, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And you've done pretty well down the Mackay Rocky region, and you've done very well land-based, haven't you?
Land-based, yeah, I do a lot of land-based. I enjoy it. It's easy to get out there. There's no boat to clean, and caught a couple of good ones in Rocky when I've been down there for work, and some good ones in the Mackay area too. So it's especially in the Mackay area, there's a lot of areas, rocky headlands and that sort of stuff you can find just looking on Google Earth and working out how to get to them and persisting from there. And then Rocky speaks for itself in the net free zone there, and the in the city. It's easy access, and there's some really good fish there too.
It's going to be a great little fishery, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thanks, mate. All right, we might touch back to you guys shortly when we get a few more questions. And a big shout out to everybody on Facebook who's joined in. We'll get a chance to ask some questions if we need to, if you'd like to, towards the end. Just going to have a quick talk to Steve up there as well. How are you, Steve? One of our other
students. Not bad, mate. Yourself?
Good, mate. Yourself? You're a Brizzy based. You've been a very successful threadfin student of ours, and you've just climbed onto Barrabasics with us last year, and a couple of outstanding captures. Well, quite a few actually already. A couple of 128s, and a few more meters down the rocky way. So it's been all right for you. You've had a good look through the course and put a lot of the stuff into practice.
Yeah. Well, I guess that says everything for the course, because up until then I'd never targeted Barra ever. So all the information that I had about them come from the course. You know, and one of the better things, especially being from Brisbane, I can plan my trips prior to leaving and have a better idea and understanding of, you know, what places I can look out for, and, you know, where I might need to be at certain times. And yeah, it does make life easier. It doesn't come without, you know, the hard work, but yeah.
You certainly hit the ground running in the Barra course as well as the thready course, mate. It didn't take you long when you were catching a lot in there too, weren't you?
Yeah, well, I was a keen fisher for a while, so going fishing was never a problem for me. But actually having that change and, you know, having something else to pursue and a bit of a challenge, new species, new ideas, new concepts, and I didn't really have any other, especially with the threadfin, I wasn't particularly up to scratch on that species either. So having that information, I just based all my knowledge off what was within the course, follow the course, and yeah, it just works.
You certainly hit the ground running in that course as well, mate. You catch some beautiful fish down there in Brizzy. All right, thanks, mate. We'll have a bit of a chat a little bit later. Let's go through a couple more. We've got still got BJ and Aaron. How are you, BJ?
Yeah, good, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, good. BJ's one of our students up in the Darwin area as well. He was rather experienced already, but it sort of opened up a few more light bulb moments to try some different things for him. And how did you find that, mate? Is that how you found it? You put a lot more stuff into practice and sort of kept going from there?
Yeah, mate. Like you said, I sort of could catch Barra fairly regularly up here, but the more and more people see you catching in various locations, and then the more seagulls you end up having on the spots. So doing the course and learning a few different techniques, I suppose, opened up a lot more areas that I could fish that I sort of hadn't looked at previously. So in that terms, it was a bit of an eye-opener.
Yeah, awesome. And of course, you guys don't have the close season. So how's the territory been fishing lately, mate?
Yeah, it's been not too bad. I haven't done a lot of Barra stuff recently. I've been trying to get offshore a little bit more, which has been good. A lot of goldies and that sort of stuff. But yeah, the next few weeks, we've had about 800 odd mil of rain in the last 3 weeks. So I would say everything will start kicking off for the runoff, and we'll be getting out there amongst it for sure.
That's good. Yeah, well, I suppose you wouldn't have had too much of a chance to get out in recent weeks with all that rain. So with the territory sort of suffering a bit with the wet seasons in recent years, it's good to see, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely, mate. We've needed it. So I think you can launch all tides at Shady Camp at the moment, which we haven't been able to do in January for a long time. So it's good.
Fantastic. All right, mate, we'll move on to Everett now. Everett's one of our long-time students as well. Come there from the start. How are you, champion? You're up in Darwin as well. How did you find the course?
Yeah, mate, no, it's been good. One of my reasons when I signed up was more to be consistent. And I like my bait fishing. So, but learning about that, I also learned where to catch bait, where to look for bait, and it helped for luring, which I'm starting to develop, more skills with that as well.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
And you get to go to some pretty remote places with your job as well, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. Right out in the NTWA border there. So I actually do a bit of land-based stuff as well, and look at the fish funneling points and use the framework with the tides and the tools and the territory and really suss out those spots. And, you know, before you know it, you've got a few of the locals wanting to tag along with you as well.
That's it, definitely. Good one. All right, guys. Well, that's just a few of our students that have joined us tonight. And if you've got any questions that they might be able to chime in, and if you know, if they can sort of give you a bit of advice on their experience to do with your question. But we might kick off with, has anybody got any questions? Not quite sure how people ask on this one. We've got a whole different dashboard on this Facebook Live. Oh, we're muted. I don't seem to have too many questions for everyone that's on tonight as yet.
Do you just go back to the FAQ and
yeah,
ask the students about the FAQs?
All right, how do we get back there, mate? Just bear with us, guys. Sorry, we've got a few things open here.
Looks like there might be a few questions in the comments section there, Ryan, on the Facebook Live.
Okay.
Hey guys, if you can see those questions, do you want to read them out? We just have some technical difficulties and we can't find the questions. So
yeah, we've got some tech problems on our end. Unfortunately, we can't see the questions. Could you read them out, BJ?
I can see some of those, Ryan. It's first one is it on DVD?
No, it's an online course. You don't get sent anything in the mail. Well, everybody gets a email sent to them with their login details, and that's how you get into the secure site. And yeah, you can get and keep coming and going as you wish. You don't have to do it all in one go. You can do a module at a time. But one thing I do recommend also is for people not to jump straight to the advanced stuff. I would definitely recommend that people do modules 3, 4, and 5, which is the stuff that's based around the framework. Because once you get your head around that kind of thing, it becomes a lot easier to start doing some of the more in-depth, advanced kind of things. So, but yeah, if it's not a DVD, you won't actually get a physical product in the mail. It just opens you up to our site with all our videos, and you get your login details. Sometimes if your login details don't arrive by email, just check your junk folder, because we are an online business. Certain providers will send emails to your junk folder. And if it doesn't arrive at all, every now and then we do have the odd one. You can always email our support and they'll send you a manual email with your details in there. So if nothing arrives, don't be afraid to get in contact with us and let us know, because we do have the odd one here and there.
We got a couple of Facebook questions. So from Dion, did the course have much on in regards to when and where to catch baits?
Yeah, we touch all about baits, high tide, low tide, all kinds of different areas. What would you guys say, Everett? You like a fair bit of live baiting, mate. Found a lot easier to catch bait up in Darwin at high tide.
Yeah, I'd look behind those, mangroves. I'd have a lot more options up my sleeve. Not only just low tide, but I could now figure out, go high tide and know where they're hiding. And I'd be surprised, they'd all be congregated there, and a couple of throws in the net. And also when you're coming down to the ramps, just that awareness and looking around on the water. And same with the herrings. You can see them off the mangrove roots and off buoys and have a drawstring net. There's a lot of options there, a lot of information.
Cool. You, Max, you do a bit of light baiting as well, don't you, mate? You sort of helped you out catching light bait since you've done the course?
Yeah, it does help, especially trying to find bait at high tide. So in your local area, you'll find once you do the course and you have a think about it, you'll find the spots that are usually your producers at high tide nearly every time, and you'll learn that yourself. But it's there's a fair bit of information there, low, high, cast set techniques, the whole thing. There's a whole bunch of info there.
That's it. Yeah, and that's one of the things I think many people have struggled with over the years is what happens when the tide floods up a bit higher. You know, the bait is a lot harder to catch, but when you think about it, and after you do the course, it opens your eyes up as to where you can actually go and catch it. So that's one of the things with being, fishing charters for so long, going out 5 days a week. I had 5, sometimes 6. You're fishing all different sorts of tides, and I had to adapt. I had to find these areas. I had no choice, even though I moved on to doing a lot more lure fishing later on in my career. But on the early days, that live baiting really built my foundations for all styles of fishing, understanding that the fish were actually there. So I had to catch the liveys no matter what. So, we get a lot of really good feedback about catching liveys with the techniques and stuff that we've put in the course.
All right.
Okay.
We got another question here from Matthew. Should we do Sounder Skills 2 before Barra Basics?
Question from Matthew. Should we do Sounder Skills 2 before Barra Basics? Well, I guess I suppose it can't hurt to get your head right around depth sounders. There's a fairly good little sounder module in Barra Basics, which we've only just not long revamped to touch on some of the later technologies these days. There's a fair bit in there that'll help you, but certainly Sounder Skills 2, it'll help any fisherman, no matter what the species is. It would probably help to do that first, I guess. Yeah. Another question?
Question from Craig. What sounder do you recommend?
From Craig, a question, what sounder do I recommend? Well, undoubtedly nowadays, BJ can attest to this, that the Garmin have come a long way with their new 84 series. It's pretty fantastic stuff, but there's all sorts of good stuff out there. Humminbird do have a good product, so they'll all show you fish. But the reason why I affiliate myself with Garmin is just the way they're developing all these new products, and they just seem to be at the start of the field these days. And I love their gear. They do have cheaper stuff like the 95 SV UHD that'll take a good high frequency side imager like your GT54 or the new 56, which is what you want for barra fishing. You want those higher frequencies for that style of things. And they're a fair bit cheaper than the 84 series. They're probably a bit less than half the price. So there's a number of different models. You've got the Ultras there as well. They're kind of in between those two, but some very good value for money units there. So it just depends on your pocket, mate, how much you want to spend really. But I choose Garmin these days, even though most brands, mate, are pretty good, particularly if you get into the higher frequencies.
All right, we've got a question from Cameron Sandercock. Would your courses help with fishing anywhere off the shelf for harpooker, blue eye, or swords? Sounder Skills 2 question. Probably
a Sounder Skills 2 question, that one. We're having that tomorrow night. But definitely we touch on some of the deep water stuff and how to use elliptical beams on deep water transducers out in that 300, 400, 500 meter country. We teach you how to pinpoint where the school of fish is by using an elliptical beam transducer. And what it does is it just cuts down that massive footprint by just doing a crossover. But anyway, it's all in the course. We'll teach you how to do it in there. But yeah, there is a bit in there that will help you. Definitely. But we'll have another webinar on that one tomorrow night, Sounder Skills 2. So you can join in again for that one if you like, mate.
All right. So we have another question here from Trent Ritchie. Any chance of a module on chasing billfish?
Any chance on the module of chasing billfish? Not in the Barra course. Look, that might be something down the track, guys. I did a fair bit of bill fishing over the years, know a few tricks. But I guess we've probably wanted to try and make the courses first that appeal to the majority of anglers and that kind of thing. But yes, it has crossed our minds to do a Spaniard course as well as a billfish course, as well as a reef routines course, which will include how to find new spots
in the middle of nowhere, that'll be a good one as well. So we do have a number of other products we are going to try and work on. It's just these things take time, but we will get around to them, that's for sure.
All right, so we got another question here. I don't have a boat. Will it still help? Maybe Chris might be able to.
Yeah, Chris might be able to shed some light on that one. I don't have a boat, but will the course help?
Oh, 100%. I would never have envisaged that I'd be able to catch big barra off the land at any stage until I'd done the course. And then the funny thing is, a lot of those big barra that we're chasing are in close to the land. So we go out in the boat and we throw our lures in close to the bank where we're without giving too much away. We're chasing some dirty water lines, or we're chasing backwaters or whatever. And the course explains all of that and why those barra are sitting where they are. So it's almost one of my favourite ways to go. Is just go do a bit of exploring and do some land-based stuff. It's well worth it for sure.
And same here, mate. I actually get a bit of a kick out of the land-based stuff too, especially last year when I had that bit of a break from fishing for a while. I wasn't going out in the boat so often, being stuck in the office all the time, but I was able to get on the rock walls here most mornings, walking the dogs and things. So yeah, when the tides were right, I'd take a rod and quite often catch a metre or two down off the rocks there. So that's the best part about it, is a lot of the advanced stuff actually overlaps for many land-based areas. Even though you're fishing from a boat a lot, you can still, if you can access those type of regions by land, you can catch some great fish. So, but yeah, the land-based, it's all covered in there as well, guys.
All right, question from Shane. Can you pay the course off in installments?
Yes, you can. I think it's 3 installments, but you can email us to find out more about that, mate. That's our admin will definitely know more about that. But yes, we do have installments available, payment plans. I'm just not sure off the top of my head exactly what they are at the moment.
So another question here. I live in Darwin and it's a bit different to the East Coast. How does it go in Darwin? Maybe BJ or Evan or something?
Yeah, BJ, I'll start with BJ. Mate, what do you reckon? I mean, a lot of the techniques, they certainly do work up there, but it's not the slow water techniques as much, is it? You're finding more of the faster water techniques are working the best up there?
Yeah, definitely, mate. Definitely the big coastal backwaters, your rocky headlands, all that sort of thing. Collision points, water collisions in creeks, and locating backwaters on sharper bends, that sort of thing, has certainly assisted for sure. Our windows are a bit smaller than the East Coast, I think, due to our size of our tides we get, but the course can definitely be used when you're in the NT, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I suppose the best thing about it is even if you are up that way and you're not really going to use the slow water techniques all that much, but if you go on holidays to an area like Queensland or something like that, you've got it all there in front of you then, haven't you? You can learn more about that style of fishing.
Exactly right. I mean, the slow water techniques still do work on our Nipa tides. It's, you just have to transfer that across when your Neeps over there are a metre of movement, and ours are still 3 or 3.5. I mean, the same techniques still work, and you've just got to put in the time and follow those deeper holes and ledges, rock bars.
Yeah. And you would have found the same up there, Everett. You do a bit of boat and land-based as well where you go, mate?
Yeah, definitely. You just got to watch your sounder, and because, as you know, you're catching a lot of those barrows in the shallow water, and we've got pretty extensive mud flats, so you got to make sure you get off them at the right time.
Yeah, that is one catch.
I don't want to get stuck. It's a long day. And also, it's also following the tide sometimes, because it'll push in. So you're definitely going to be just watching what's happening with the tide, what's the bait's doing. So yeah, that's definitely some of the points I found. But you can apply them, and you just got to think a bit laterally. And the other bonus you haven't really touched on yet is we connect up with a few of the other fishers and go out with a few of the boys, and you learn a lot that way as well.
Definitely, definitely. It's good to have the get-togethers and bounce a few ideas off each other. That's for sure. Okay, what else? How other questions we got there, mate?
So we got another question. I'm traveling from down south. Will it help me plan my trip? Maybe Steve might be able to.
Yeah, Steve might be able to help us with this one. I'm traveling from down south, so will it be able to help my trip? So I guess that he means more along the lines of, I guess he'll be able to plan what he needs to do, where he's going, because you just got to look at the tides that are coming up. What do you reckon, Steve, mate? Is that the sort of thing you do? You're in Brizzy, but you head to the central Queensland area to do a fair bit?
Yeah, well, currently I'm in the middle of planning a trip as well, but that's all I seem to do in between other fishing trips is plan for more Barra trips. So, yeah, 100%. You can do it all at home. Like, there's tools at your disposal to use. If you have any questions prior, you can put them to the group. There's plenty of good blokes on there that'll give you some ideas, give you hints and tips. Like if you're new to a system, it's very likely someone else has fished that system before. They can, give you navigation tips. Watch out for the rock bars and
don't we know that in Rocky?
Well, like Rocky's notorious, but
yeah, definitely.
So that in that way that helps too. So between your own planning, questions to the group, like you don't ask where you're fishing, but more likely that you won't get those answers anyway. But you can still do your planning from home.
Yeah,
ask a few things about the area, you'll get the answers.
And we teach people how to use Google Earth and to look for a lot of these, like funneling locations, draining points, all that sort of thing, outcrops. But yeah, Google Earth is a very handy little tool, as people will learn going through the course.
Yeah. So yeah,
I can chime in on that one as well, Ryan, if you need.
Sorry, mate, what was that?
With to touch further on what Steve was saying in regards to the Barra Basics, you've also got the webinars as well, where we've gone into quite a lot of detail on certain specific areas.
Definitely.
And the Barra Basics study group as well has quite a lot. If you search for a particular river system, you're likely to find a lot of posts about that, from Rocky all the way over, Queensland, all the way up through the Gulf into NT and touching on WA as well. So there's so much info in there you'll be able to touch on. And with that group, the more you put in, the more you get back. Steve himself shares quite a lot of info and has shared quite a few marks even for over the Rocky Way for those travelling. And I often do the same for Darwin. And, we get people posting reports back, which furthers our knowledge on areas as well. So it's definitely a more you give, the more you get sort of scenario.
Yeah, because you get to see what's going on around the place from everybody. And of course, not everybody likes to share in the group and that kind of thing, but we certainly appreciate all you guys that do. And it's become a great little community. And like you say, there's just so much information on there on different areas. You just got to search the term or the place you want to look at, and it all pops up in front of you. Okay.
Another question here. I watched a video of you catching fish in open water, not snags. Is that in the course?
Yes, all the stuff I do out in the open, catching big fish in the middle of nowhere, that's all in the course as well. That's a lot of that sort of stuff's in the advanced area. So yeah, I don't actually really fish snaggy line banks very much at all. It's probably the least form of fishing I do. Most of my stuff's a little bit outside the box, and it's all got to do with the water collisions, different coloured waters and currents, and the different patterns that certain currents throw. So
Max might be able to help you out on that one too.
Yeah, Maxi might be able to help me on that one. You do a bit out around the Headlands, Maxi. You see a lot of these different ways the water funnels and bits and pieces like that.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, they're not always just in snags. There's no doubt about that. And the course will help you to look in the right spot. And some of them don't. Some of those spots don't produce, but many of them do too. But
exactly,
it's about practice. Look, 3 T's, the right time, the right technique, and a bit of patience, and it'll certainly pay off for you.
Definitely, mate. Definitely. And some of the areas where we catch these fish out in the open are, there can be 10 meters of water there, but we're catching them off in that first 1 foot of the water column or 2 feet. And they're the kind of techniques that we teach. And a lot of the students have taken that on now, and they are catching big fish out in those kind of areas, which is great to see. Okay, another question?
I got another question from Aaron. Does the course cover lakes?
Lakes, impoundments, yes. Module 7 is a full module impoundment. It's shows you all the little tricks to some of the areas we look in these impoundments. And we also have a very in-depth video with Lindsay Dobe, who's from Lake Proserpine down there. He also runs Barra World at Proserpine tackle shop there, and very knowledgeable man on impoundments. And between my knowledge and his, it's certainly put a lot of anglers in the right direction, catch some great fish. I think one guy hit the ground running with 12 metres in one night, in his first night on an impoundment. So yeah, there's been a lot of guys that have taken their fishing through the roof on the impoundments using our techniques and bits and pieces, which is, some of it's been around for a very long time. I only fished impoundments. I mostly started fishing them when they first came out, like the Ross River weirs and all that. And then more so in the later years, I spent more time in the saltwater, but nothing changes for the fresh. You can go straight back to it using the techniques in the course and start catching good fish again. So, another question there, mate?
Yep. Where are we? Sorry, I'm just going through here. Yeah, night fishing. Any information on night fishing?
Yes, we do have a bonus video in there on night fishing. Not too much of it is filmed at night. We film a lot of it during the day to give you the examples of how it's structured, because there's no point in trying to show you stuff in the distance at night time, because you're not going to see it. So most of it's actually filmed in the day, but yes, it's all based around nighttime and what they do with the different moons and where they go and that kind of thing as well. So yep, quite a bit in there about night.
All right. Can I ask you questions if I get stuck? Maybe one of the guys, Evan,
yeah, I guess Everett could answer that one, mate. We got the study group there when people want to ask questions.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's easy as just getting on Facebook, putting up trip reports, and then asking what worked, what did not work. I think that's where you learn a lot of your fishing, is about what doesn't work sometimes, and then just throwing it out there and saying, oh, okay, I better just look back how much I did or didn't prepare, or what I did with this, you know. So
yeah. That's the thing, mate. That's why the groups are there, isn't it? You know, it's just helped so many people, and like we've said before, they're searchable, and people can just look at all the other questions that have been asked on their topics.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Okay, another question.
All right, Raymond's got a question. Would the finger mark course work for mangrove jack?
Would our finger mark course work for mangrove jack? Not particularly, maybe only a few aspects. Our finger mark course has been helping people catch a lot more dewies, and in particular snapper down in the Brisbane area. Snapper and finger mark are so closely related. But jacks are a lot more of a shallower legitimate than finger marks. So a lot of the techniques are not going to apply for mangrove jacks. They're out on their own. I might do a course on them one day. I might bring in another specialist for that. I certainly can catch them, but I've mostly turned my attention to finger mark with charters over the years, because they're a fish we catch out in the open. They still pull hard. They're actually bigger than jacks and more delicious. So, although a jack's pretty nice as well. But yeah, I am. It's one of those little things we will contemplate on. Certainly won't be this year, but yeah, we might put a course together with jacks. I think I've got a few guys in mind that are very, very, very knowledgeable with jacks. So we might link up with them down the track a bit. Okay, we got any more questions there, mate?
No, we don't have any more questions at this stage. Maybe some of the guys that are in the actual webinar, Wayne Bird, Cleet Nichol, Shane Stafford, Jason Corrigan. Do you have any questions? If you could type them in the chat section on Zoom there, then we could answer them for you.
Yeah, guys, so if there's any more of you with any questions, just type them in the chat area on Zoom and we'll get to them. Otherwise, we may be wrapping this one up shortly, I guess. But anyway, to you guys that do come through this intake, it's the 1st to the 5th of February is the intake. And of course, that's just the intake period. You've got the course for life, and you can come and go as you wish. You can come and go from the study group and ask questions anytime. Sometimes it might take me a couple of days to get back to you at the latest, but I'm generally there within a couple of days, usually within a few hours, hopefully. And a lot of the other guys, like the boys on the screen here, Chris and Maxi and Steve, Everett and BJ, all the guys and a bunch of other guys, they're really good on there. They all pitch in, everyone helps out. Ian Walters as well. So yeah, we got a whole bunch of blokes on there always helping out the others. Righto.
All right. If any of you guys on the webinar would like to ask a question, you can also unmute your microphone just by clicking the little microphone with a line through it. So if any of you guys want to ask questions, please unmute and ask them now.
And that voice in the background here is Sam. He's our new logistics manager. He's looking after a lot of the things in the business, particularly our game boat, getting it up to scratch for a big trip away this year. Sam's a chemical engineer amongst a whole heap of other things, very good at building things and pulling things apart. One of those blokes you want to have around when you're stuck 50 miles offshore and everything turns kaput. So he's also helping us out with our shop when we're getting that up and running as well.
I've got a question here from Matthew. How long do you have access to the course content?
How long do we have access to the course content? For as long as it's on the internet, mate, which we hope will be for quite some time. So that's why I say you can come and go. You just got to punch in your details to get into our secure site every time. That's all you got to do. And you can come and go as much as you wish.
If I just jump in there, Brian.
Yeah, mate, go for it.
For that last question, the good thing about it is as you learn, you go back and do the course again and you get another level, another layer of understanding, and it's a good way to apply, you know, and build up your knowledge base. So you can always come back in and do parts of that course again, you know.
Exactly, and that's what a lot of people say. Every time they watch it or parts that they're interested in, they just pick up more and more things that they didn't see last time because they just went over it too quick. And yeah, that's the thing. A lot of the guys have gone over it many times to get it all to sink in. Sometimes it's just that one little thing that they've missed because they brushed across it too quick that could have been the trigger to that technique or area that's, you know, that one thing that's really going to make a difference. So that's the best thing about being able to revisit.
Yeah, am I unmuted at the moment?
Yeah, mate.
Yeah. Well, finding lately, even blokes that come out fishing with me and some that have come out on more than one occasion and, you know, quite often. But the advantage I have over them is that I can go back and revisit the course, and that's probably what separates me from them and them not being able to actually go out and do it themselves. But for me to gain that extra understanding and knowledge and keep improving my own fishing, you know, I can revisit the course, get a better understanding and continue to move forward where they seem to get, they've tried, but they get a bit stuck. You know?
That's it. That's it. Yeah, you just can't be expected to do it all once and it all sinks in and everything falls into place. Yeah, it just doesn't happen. That's why people have got to go over it and over it. And that's the thing, I guess, you know, if the tides are big, well, and you're heading out, well, maybe review module 3 and all the advanced videos, or if you're going somewhere where the tides are small or you're on neeps, you know, revisit module 5 or even module 4 if you're fishing the rock bars on the medium sort of tides. That's the best thing to do is before you head out, check the tides and then go and have a revisit on those particular tides, those techniques.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, mate. Hang on, one question.
Yeah, one more question. I got a question from Thomas Ryan. What course would suit someone fishing out of Wide Bay Bar?
What course would suit someone fishing out of Wide Bay Bar? Wide Bay, that's north of Fraser.
Southern end of Fraser.
Southern end of Fraser. Northern end of Fraser onwards, there's wonky holes galore, right up the entire east coast. We have had some students say they found a few south of Fraser and off Noosa, but I don't think they're in quite the numbers that are north of Fraser. But also just in teaching people how to find wonky holes, there's a bit of coursework in there that kinds of teach them how to find different other things as well. So they are finding other kinds of anomalies by looking for wonky holes. But Sounder Skills 2 is a good one. That's going to help you understand depth sounders. Everything's in there, from whether it's creek to reef to deep water, deep dropping, game fishing, all that sort of stuff. There's so much in there, and we haven't had one single complaint yet with Sounder Skills 2. We've even had commercial fishermen from 40 years doing it, saying they learned a hell of a lot from it. So that give you an idea of what's in Sounder Skills 2. It's a very great course. And there's fishing information in there too. We teach you how to assess ledges, where to look, how to assess reefs, and some of the places out around the reefs that are a little bit overlooked, and how the 3D world is hidden on a 2D screen. There's so many illusions. Sounders lie to so many people. In there we also teach you what functions best to use where. Some functions don't show fish that well, and for certain reasons, and we explain all that and why. But it's just, it's massive. We've got more on that tomorrow night. We'll be running what's in Sounder Skills 2 tomorrow night.
Yeah, Ryan, in the chat comment, you've got a question in there. Do you talk about specific lures you recommend?
Yes, lures that I specifically recommend. We do run over basically all the kinds of lures to use where and when. I mean, there's a number of different brands out there of different types of paddle tails, different types of vibes. Many of them work. Some may be a little bit better than others. I talk about the ones I have good experiences with. And I guess that kind of thing's updated in the Facebook study group a little bit by people asking in there if they've used these kind of lures or those kind of lures. And actually, while we're just talking about lures, Sam and I, in the last couple of weeks, we've been trialing some new ones which we're going to have in our shop. It's quite exciting, actually. They outfish vibes. We get a lot more bites on them than vibes for a special reason. There's something that they do on the drop, and there's a few different ways you can make them resemble injured fish. I'm pretty excited about it. I just can't wait to get them out here in bulk, and we'll put them in our shop. And we're getting them out with BKK hooks on them, hopefully. We're still talking about that at the moment. So they'll already have all the good hardware on them. And it's their action on the fall is the big killer. We took them out. They're a sinking stick bait, basically. And we actually took them out into 25 metres at the Cooktown the other day, and we were catching big, massive finger mark on them and largemouth nannies. The threadfin, absolutely love them. The barras, everything. There's so many different situations where you can use them, and you can flick them across the water like a top water lure to catch pelagics at the same time. So if there's one lure you ever want and you have in your tackle box that covers a number of varieties, it's one of these. But we'll have instructional videos on our site for people who purchase them as well. So I'm looking forward to getting all that set up.
All right. So what course would suit someone? Oh, sorry, we already had that question. Will you ever offer the impoundment course separate to the Barrabasics course?
Will we ever offer the impoundment section separately to the Barrabasics course? Oh, that's a hard one. I don't know. I'm sorry. I really can't answer that just yet. We've got to talk to a few other people about that. But at this stage, no, it's all in the one course, unfortunately. But who knows what will happen down the track.
Another question. Hi, Ryan. Do you use your motor guide when you live bait?
Do I use my motor guide when I live bait? These days, yeah. I mean, in the course, we teach people how to use the twin anchor technique, which avoids the boats moving around a lot with the wind and tide. So you're not getting blown all over the show. Your rods are sitting nice and square and you're side under the current. But yes, you can actually use electric motors for live baiting in certain situations, particularly when tide's running with the wind. It's very easy. And then the beauty of that is you can still move around a fair bit, whereas with the twin anchor technique, you are kind of locked in the one position. So, but yes, mate, you can actually use your electric motor for live baiting.
There's a bit of a question here from Raymond. He's transferring marks from one sounder to another. He just wants to know how accurate the new positions are on the new sounder. So he has some marks off an old sounder, but he hasn't had a chance to get out. So a bit of a technical.
Oh, that might be a technical question. Yeah, we mostly answer our practical aspects. Sounder Skills 2's more the practical side of things. There's technical stuff in there as well, but it teaches you all about frequencies and the different beam angles and all sorts of other stuff like that. But as far as, marks transferring and being accurate from brand to brand or unit to unit, that's a bit of a difficult one to answer on here because I'm not familiar with how some brands do transfer. So, there are some technical questions that we don't sort of cover in that course. They're the sort of things that you can find out through owner groups like your Lowrance group, Hummingbird group, Garmin group, groups, that kind of stuff, or support. Just try the different brand supports. They quite often help out people with that kind of information. Okay.
Maybe just put on the floor the people in the webinar if there's any other questions or things you'd like to add. Has anyone got anything they want to say or think they can add?
Yeah, if anyone would like to say anything, just unmute yourselves.
Yeah, Ryan, it's Shane Stafford here from out of Richmond.
How are you, mate?
Yeah, good, thanks. I've done your Sounder Skills 1 and 2 and contemplating doing these, listening to these guys that are out fishing every day. We obviously aren't in a situation to do it yet, but I find it so interesting and, the learning and how you put things across. That's why I'm considering doing it, whereas I may not use it for a couple of years. I mean, you find that satisfactory? Like, I'm not wasting my time?
Oh, no, mate, definitely not. No, because you've always got it to come back to. And just remember that down the track, if you lose your passwords and that sort of stuff, you can always get back in by just sending an email to our support, which is support@fishsmarter.com.au. And Jeffrey's a great little whiz kid. He'll get you in there and get you sorted, send you a manual email with your new details, and off you go again. So we're always there. We got good backup, mate, all that kind of thing. So if you do need to come and go and you do forget passwords and that sort of stuff, we're always here for you.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. And it's, an excellent courses that you do.
Too easy, mate. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Okay.
All right. Question from Matthew. When and where is your shop opening?
It's an online shop, that of course. We don't know when it's going to open. We're in the early stages. And of course, with a lot of the products we're putting on there, we got to test them all first, which we're in the early stages of now. We've looked at 2 products so far, some slow pitch jigs that work really well. And we have the sinking stick bait, which is going to be an absolute killer for all sorts of things. And I'm working a bit with Chris also on a shallow diving lure, which we're going to add at some stage as well. So we've got a lot coming up. We're trying to squeeze in a big trip at some stage, late April, heading around to some remote locations and coastlines around in the Gulf for a few months. So we're really, really busy. We don't know if we'll get any more courses built before then. I don't think so. But it's we'll certainly get onto that sort of thing.
So Trevor's got a question here. Hi, a lot of money to outlay. Will I regret it?
A lot of money to outlay. Well, when you think about your $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 boat and all your gear and everything else, and a lot of people still go out there and drive around in circles for many years and waste a lot of money in fuel. So it could be possibly the cheapest thing you have in your tackle box, really. It shows you how to put it all together and start working out the big spider web and get it all happening. get it all.
Probably a
Chip in
really
there,
good
Ryan.
question to ask some of the guys that have done the course for a bit of input on that one, because they're the ones that have shelled out the money.
Yeah, I might just ask some of the guys that have done the course because they've already shelled out the money. So what do you guys reckon? Is it worth the money?
Brian, I reckon you see it as an investment because it's good information. You keep applying and learning as you go, and it's good stimulating. It's good fun.
Definitely. And you've seen so many people go through the course, and you've seen their catches go through the roof, and so many people are in the meter club now as well. And I've lost count actually of my old diary here somewhere, but yeah, there's thousands of meteries have been caught now, which is great. It's really good to see.
I'll chime in, Ryan. BJ here, mate. The only reason you would regret it is if you stick in your old ways and don't actually put the time in to follow the course.
Exactly, mate. I mean, everyone, exactly. And it doesn't matter how good a techniques you're armed with when, you know, the first time you go out and try this, it might be a day of bad barometrics and things like that. So doesn't matter what you do that day, even if you had a magic wand with a reel attached to it, you're not going to catch fish sometimes. But that happens no matter how good a fisherman you are. You can still have bad days. And that's what we teach in the course. We do teach you when you're most likely going to have a bad day, so that you understand what to expect when you go out, especially barometrics wise, and what's coming with the next weather change and all those sort of things. So, but yeah, so what do you think, Maxie? You got a good value out of the course, mate?
Yeah, mate, absolutely. And BJ hit the nail on the head. You'll only get out of it what you put into it. If you're willing to challenge yourself, you'll get a lot out of it. It's very easy to go back and fish the old ways, but you've got to test yourself and put it through its paces and be prepared to learn from that. So yeah, it's definitely worth it. Go for it. Don't hold back. You won't regret. You'll waste a lot of money on fuel, and as you say, fuel, time, everything, outboard motors, boats, gear. In the scheme of things, it's probably not that much.
No, exactly, and that's where Sound Skills 2 is very handy too. I mean, it's a pretty cheap course when you think about it, compared to, and it helps people put everything into place. You know, all their other investment, their boats, and you know, their fishing spots and that sort of thing, and they get to understand their fishing spots a bit more too by doing Sound Skills 2 and learning a little bit more about it that way.
A couple of lads that I know have done Southron even, like down, you know, Bundaberg down that way, which have done it now. They're catching barra down there that they could never catch before. So it certainly pays off. Yeah,
definitely. Thanks, mate.
Okay. All right. Another question.
I was
Finger mark course cover everything in the Sound Skills 2, or do I need to do both? Maybe Steve might be able to help you out on that one.
Steve might be able to help us out on that one. Does the finger mark course have everything that's in Sound Skills 2? It won't have. The finger mark is a species specific course, so yeah, there's a bit of sounding stuff in there, of course, with all our species courses, but it's not like what's in Sound Skills 2. That's the one you want if you really want to get, you know, your head around sound. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, well, some things cross over, like some of the areas to actually go and search and identify and have a look. But the actual finger mark course gives you the specific information too about all your timing and, you know, when to go and look at those places.
Yeah, exactly.
Different. So there's a little bit in Sound Skills too, but the finger mark course is a bit more comprehensive when targeting those species.
And you've caught some crack and snapper down there, haven't you, using the finger mark course?
Yeah, already. Yeah, so I've only really just been playing around, like putting my mind to it over the last couple of weeks. And last night's trip wasn't the greatest, but I was trying to mix and match a bit of the framework just because I was desperate to get out and go on. But just need to keep applying it a bit more. Like the threadies are pretty popular down here at the moment, so it can end up being a car park at days. So to go out and chase something else, and the summer snapper too, you know, like it's a very real prospect.
Well, I saw those pictures you put up the other day. You went threadfin fishing, but you're still waiting for the tide or something, and you went out and grabbed 5 or 6 big good snapper.
So that was and it was just but having that awareness at that time to go, you know what, I'm going to check here because that works. You know, that should work at this time for that species. I'm going to pull up and have a look, and we hit the jackpot. So I was happy.
Nice work, mate. You're doing very well down there. And you've caught a few snapper down CQ there too, Maxie, I believe.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, we got a few. We only catch them during the winter months, of course, here. But when some of the places that they're getting caught, when you start to apply it and do the finger mark course, it's the same. Pretty much the type of ground they're on. Where they're sort of sitting in relation to the ground, depending on the stage of the tide, etc. So it's interesting.
Very similar fishing habits, aren't they? Very similar.
Yeah, they're good fun to catch too.
Yeah, definitely. All righty. Okay, another question, have we?
Yep. Mitch Bennett. So would Sounder Skills 2 be okay without doing number 1? So for the next 5 days in the sale, we do actually throw in Sounder Skills number 1. Yeah,
actually, we do throw in Sounder Skills 1 with number 2 in the sale. So it does pay to do number 1 first. It's what someone like me sees as probably being a little bit some of the more basic kind of things. But I tell you what, if you don't get your head around them, it does make it harder to grasp and get hold of some of that more really in-depth stuff as well. So. Yeah, I would recommend doing Sounder. It's only $20, Sounder Skills 1, and it really lines up the fundamentals you must get right to get your head around before you move on to something like Sounder Skills 2. Yep. And that's about it.
Yeah, we don't have too many more questions. Maybe we go back to the students and one by one, if they could tell us what their favourite, like what courses they've done, what your favourite one is. And just a bit of a summary on what you think. And
all right, we'll start off with Maxie. What do you think, Maxie? What are the courses you've done, mate?
Finding finger mark, wonky holes, Sounder Skills 1, Sounder Skills 2, and the Barra Basics. So they're all good. They're all really good. But probably the one that I've got the most out of, or probably not so much I've got the most out of, but the one I apply the most because that's more of the fishing I do is Barrabasics.
Cool.
So they're all good value though. You can't go wrong really. If you're into something and you want to target something and try something different, then go for it. I love to do the thread fitting one too, but I don't fish the Fitzroy regular enough anymore to warrant it myself personally. So, but any of them are good. Any of them are unreal.
Yeah, cool, mate. Awesome. What about you, Everett? What have you done up there, mate?
Yeah, mate, I've done them all. I ticked the box on the all the Sounder Skills, the threadies, the finger mark, and I fished them for what the season is up here, what the tides are doing. So, but recently I've just got another boat, so I've switched over to Garmin, and so I'm doing the Sounder Skills again, just to brush up and get on my settings, and really enjoy that again. So. Yeah, and at the moment, because we got this big monsoon, we're going to have a cracker wet season runoff. So I'm revisiting, just rushing up again on the Barrabasics again. For sure.
Yep, cool, mate. And you'd recommend the course, Barrabasics?
Definitely. I've sat in the fence for a bit. I looked at it, and then I just viewed it as an investment in what I've got, and I've got bigger and better boats, and I've become a more consistent fisherman because of doing those courses, and that's one of the things that for me is the take-home message is, the framework and the tools, the right time and the territory, and that puts me in the frame for better fishing sessions and catches as well.
Awesome, mate. Hopefully we'll get to catch up with you Darwin guys at some stage this year again. We dipped out last year on all our trips up there, so with that bloody disease getting around, so we might see you boys sooner than later.
Oh, that'd be good. I'm interested in these drop floating stick baits you're talking about, because I had a lot of applications we could use them up here,
Oh, you wait till you see these things. They catch everything.
drop a few up. We'll test them out for you.
Well, actually, in the private study groups is where I'm going to release them first. So just to show the students before we sort of make them public. But yeah.
No. All right, thanks.
A little bit away yet, but we're getting there.
Thanks.
Most important thing is we've got them working, and we're getting the right hooks on them. It's just the packaging and thing now we're working on. So all good, mate. What about you, BJ? You've done quite a few, haven't you, mate?
Yeah, mate. I've done the Barra Basics, which is probably the one I've looked at the most. I've also done Sounder Skills 1 and 2, which were very helpful, Sounder Skills 2 in particular. Then I had a look at the Wonky Holes course, which just blew my mind, and I gave up on that, to be totally honest, because there was too much information in it when I couldn't go out and put it into practice. So until I get a bit of a space where I can spend a couple of weeks out looking around,
Better weather.
I figured concentrate on the more important things at the stage. So it was Sounder Skills 2 and the Barra Basics for me. I've only just started touching base on the finding finger mark at the moment, and doing very well, getting goldies in and around Darwin Harbour.
I saw those pictures you posted the other night. There was some crackers there, mate. Awesome.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I've got some more to post up. We located another spot 450 metres from one of the most popular boat ramps in Darwin, and about 30 boats drove past us with weird looks, wondering why we were there. So,
yeah,
I mean, that's it all.
That's what we teach people, where to find these little bits and pieces, and that's good, mate. Fantastic. Yeah, we just came back from Cooktown. Found an interesting little place up there with 4 major schools of goldies on them. I'll share the screen recordings in the finger mark group shortly, but yeah, it was a pretty crazy session. It was just fish after fish. Oh, we're losing a lot. We pulled the hooks a lot, and the sharks moved in, and we moved out and went chasing wonky holes again, but yeah, we had a cracker up there on the finger mark. It was fantastic. But
we could see the boat ramp, and we were pulling Moses perch, trickies, and goldies and little cod. From there, it was ridiculous.
All the places that people drive past.
Exactly right.
Exactly. Awesome, mate. Good to talk to you again, buddy. And Chris, what do you reckon, mate? You've done quite a few of our courses.
Yeah, I've covered them all. By far, for me, probably because I'm addicted to try and nail down Barra. They're a challenge for me, so that's the one that I've spent the most time on. So I haven't really put a great deal of time into the others. The threadies a fair bit, but someone, I think Shane, asked a question before about whether it was worth the money. It's worth every single cent of it. Threefold, I reckon, fivefold. What it did for me was it taught me what the main thing was, what their habits were, and then you can then put your own thought processes into place to try and nut out where you think they're going to be at certain times, and yeah, you've got to put the time in. But by far, this is my favorite course, and yeah, anyone that's sitting on the fence. I sat on the fence for quite a while, and then I finally jumped, and thank God I did, because it's been great.
And what's the biggest barra you've caught land-based?
Metre 22 land-based in Rocky.
Nice.
That was just last year, and a metre 20 on a live bait not long after it did the course. So yeah, definitely paid off, and probably since I've done the course a couple of years ago, what I'm probably 3 years in now, have to be a couple of hundred saltwater barra, and I reckon in my previous life before doing Barra Basics, I wouldn't have caught 40 fish in 20 years of fishing for barra. So it just made that big of a difference. I've put in a lot of time as well, so you've got to put in the time, but you get out of it what you put into it, as the other guys said.
Awesome, mate. Fantastic. And Steve, mate, you've done quite a few courses too now?
Yeah, so all but the wonky holes, and if it comes to it, I wouldn't hesitate getting either. But
the other thing I don't think you get down there, isn't it?
If it's as good as the Barra course, though, and the fish you get off them is worth the travel, and it'll be something we'll consider one day for sure. But
yeah, no, you must have been stoked with those 2 128s. I mean, that was fantastic.
Yeah, well, that's like, I'm not surprised that all the boys have said the same thing. They've all done a range of courses, but Barra seems to be the top of the list, and it is for me too. Yeah, I can't wait to get back up and chase them again.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to tomorrow, mate. We've got the boat sitting right here. We're down in Kabul at the moment. We're back in the old office.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, we're spending a fair bit of time down here for a while. So, yeah, we're heading out for over the next few days and see what trouble we can run into. So,
Half your luck.
you'll see it in the group.
I was keen, but I'll just hold out another couple of weeks and I'll be right.
Yeah. I think we've got one more question here.
Yeah, just a quick one from Mick Chelfie. He just wants to ask Chris Ballard if he can see at night time.
I think that's a bit of an in-house joke. But Chris, can you see at night time? Mick wants to know.
Better than he can fish at night time, I'll give you that.
I was waiting for that. All right, guys. So thank you very much. Oops, hang on. One more.
Yeah, I'll get. Oh, that's,
yeah, Daryl just wants to know, is Sound Skills aimed at Garmin, or will he benefit from Lowrance and I guess other models and brands of sounders?
With Sound Skills 2, it's actually filmed with Garmin because of the Active Captain app. The only thing that's different between different brands is all you've got to do is take into account that a gain is called sensitivity. It's called, with different brands, it's called brightness. It's called gain sometimes. So that's the only thing you've really got to worry about. But all the tuning and things like that, and the perception of a 3D world on a 2D screen, yes, it applies to all brands, even though it's filmed on Garmin. But realistically, I would like to do a tuning video on some of these new brands. I think we've worked out a way actually to Wi-Fi into other brands now and record on the iPhones. And then we put them in another project and then we use the cursor over the top of them. So hopefully down the track, when I get some time, I would like to add a little bit more to Sound Skills 2, just with some of the other brands going out and tuning them and running them through their paces. But yes, you will still, doesn't matter what brand you've got, you will still learn a lot from that course. Yes.
All right. One last question here from Matthew. How long were the students fishing for Barra before taking the course? So it's a good question for the guys.
Oh, yeah, that's a good question for the guys. Matthew wants to know, is all you guys there, how long were you ever fishing for Barra before you actually took the course? I'll start off with Maxie. How long were you fishing for Barra before you took the course, mate?
Oh, probably 20 years unsuccessfully.
Yep, cool. What about you, Evan?
Yeah.
I come up to Darwin in 2012. So it would have been about 5 or 6 years of getting frustrated, talking to other guys, and then just saying there's a bit more to this. I've got to work out the patterns. And once I read actually in a fishing magazine about your course, and I thought, I'm going to give this a go. So, yeah, and I haven't looked back since. So,
cool, mate. BJ, you've fished most of your life?
Yeah, mate, I was probably barra fishing 10 to 12 years, something like that. I had the benefits of learning off a couple of local guys that I used to fish with regularly. And as I said, I could catch fish in these areas quite often. But then, obviously, with the course, we were able to locate new and improved areas that other people would often overlook. So I think regardless of your skill level, if you look into the course for what it's worth and, don't stick to your old ways, I think regardless of how experienced you are, you'll definitely pick up new things. And I still go back now and learn new things at times and go back over course material quite regularly. So, yeah, I don't think it really holds much weight, to be honest. How long you been doing it?
Exactly. Cool, mate. Chris, how long were you barra fishing, mate, before you bought the course?
Yeah, on and off for probably 20 years. I probably gave it a fair crack, probably in that first 10 years of that, and then just got frustrated with it and just found other ways to go and catch a fish. So and then got back into it basically by doing the course, and then yeah, it's just been full noise since then.
Cool, mate. Awesome. And Steve, what about you, mate? I guess you've been based in Brizzy a lot, so you probably wouldn't have been fishing for Barra a great deal. You'd be more of a...
not even a great deal. Never. Ever.
You just jumped straight into Barra, didn't you?
So the only Barra fishing I ever done was my mate's Bucks party. We went to that bloody Bly Lake.
Okay.
Threw a few lures around there, but that doesn't count, I don't think. So,
so there you go. So there you go. A variety of experience from nothing at all to the guys doing it for 20 years or so before they bought the course. So one more question.
Just a bit of a note. So all the courses go on sale from tomorrow till Friday. So it's only a 5-day period. So if you're thinking about it, it's probably
a good time. Yes, it's a good time to jump on because there's being more added to Sound Skills 2 next year, and this will definitely be the last time at this price. We've said that before, but I don't know why we keep leaving it this way, but I guess we just want to help people out to get them to understand their sounders and that a bit more. But yes, this will definitely be the last time Sound Skills 2 will be reduced at that price. Okay, that's about it, guys. I'd like to thank all my students for coming along. Maxie, Everett, BJ, Steve-O, and Chris. Thanks heaps, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you for everyone else for coming along and asking questions. So we do have a sale on 1st to the 5th, and if you got any more questions you want to ask, feel free to email us at info@ryanmoodyfishing.com, and we can get to any further questions via email. Righto, I think we'll wind up. Once again, thanks everybody who came along. And if you get into the course, we look forward to seeing your captures and any questions that are in the private Facebook group. So we'll sign off. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
See ya.
See ya.
See you guys.
Thank you very